Hello everyone, this is Dimitri, CryptoParadise.consulting. A very quick introduction to let you know you're now watching my English YouTube channel. I also have a French YouTube channel where I have much more subscribers and where I post many more videos than on this one. You'll find all the links below this video, so don't hesitate if you're familiar with French. Even if you're not, actually, you can also pop up any subtitle in any language directly under my video, so don't hesitate to subscribe to my French channel. Now, of course, there are very few subscribers on this English channel, so don't hesitate to also subscribe to this channel so we can grow the number. And now I just wish you'll enjoy watching.
Here we are with Tom. So I'm here with Tom Wells, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Liberland. Thank you, Tom, for being with me.
It's my pleasure, Dimitri.
And so just before we start, I just want to remind everybody that I'm doing since January. I announced it. I'm going to do lots of videos about Liberland around once a month. And I'm interviewing, let's say, the main key actors of Liberland. So we have government members. I already did a nice interview with Vit, with who is our president, with Michael, who is our justice minister. One is coming with Cameron, who deals with all the nationality issues with Liberland. And today, I'm very pleased to be with Tom, who is our Minister of Foreign Affairs, as I said. So, Tom, let's directly go into my questions if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good, perfect. So tell us a little bit about you, maybe your background, your studies, work, and what countries did you live in until today?
Okay, well, I'm a longtime activist in the freedom movement here in the United States. I've worked with the Libertarian Party, with the RLC, which is a group of libertarian Republicans. I went to school at the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, and I also attended university in Bonn in Germany. My studies were, I'm definitely a fan of European culture and language and history, and I did my major in German language, German area studies. So I spent a good amount of time in Germany, and after I finished my studies, I worked in the German Parliament, the Bundestag, and also I later worked at the United States Embassy when Richard Holbrooke was the ambassador to Germany. And he was a very influential diplomat. And he was also relevant in the Balkans. He brought the warring parties in Bosnia together, and he brokered basically the Dayton Peace Accords. And so he was a very, very influential diplomat. I don't know if he passed away in 2010, unfortunately. I don't know if we would see eye to eye on every issue, but he was definitely a true statesman and a diplomat with certainly a tremendous amount of influence, and I'm proud to have worked for him.
Nice. What year? So what year were you in Germany? What are we talking about?
Oh, I was in Germany in the early 90s and late 80s and early 90s, so I got to see the Berlin Wall come down.
Wow. Okay. Also du sprichst Deutsch.
Ja, ich spreche Deutsch. Ja, ganz genau.
Yeah, it's funny because my mother is German and nobody really knows about it, but I also speak German. So, and I have connections with Germany, of course. Interesting.
I remember you saying that before. Yes.
Very interesting. So great to hear. So today you live in the US, in Florida. That's where you're based?
That's right.
Okay. So what made you come into the Liberland adventure, and how did it start? How did you become actually Minister of Foreign Affairs? Tell us the journey.
It's a little bit longer story. I'll give you the condensed version of that. I heard about Liberland when everybody else heard about it. Although Vit and I had some friends in common in the freedom movement. So basically, I reached out to Vit. I started doing research on the region. I knew there was war in the region and that some areas still had some problems with mines. So I looked up some NGO reports on the subject of clearing the mines, landmines in the region, and we opened up a dialogue that way. And luckily, there's no mines in the Liberland area. Most of the fighting was in other parts of Croatia at the time, and the Serbian Krajina region, which was part of Croatia. Anyway, our dialogue started there, and then BID asked me, well, you have some diplomatic experience. Why don't you be our United States representative? I'm like, whoa, okay, this is a great way to get involved, and I'll be happy to. So we brought BID to the United States. We introduced him to a lot of elected officials, people in Congress and the Senate. We brought him to speak at we brought him to Las Vegas to speak at the conference that's held by Mark Skousen there, Freedom Fest. We brought him to Washington, D.C., to New York. We got him on media. So we introduced him to a lot of people in the U.S. that way. And some of them already had heard about Liberland. It had just started back in 2015. So it all started there, and I helped organize support for Liberland in the United States. And as more activities went on, we were invited to come to Guatemala and meet with people in the government there. And we didn't have a foreign minister, so they asked me if I would serve as the foreign minister. So I accepted the role. Of course, we also have Dr. Tariq Abbasi, who's our Secretary of State, which is a similar function, but he has his focus is on certain regions where he has a lot of connections. I have experience and connections in the Western Hemisphere and parts of Europe, and Dr. Abbasi has tremendous connections in Asia and the Middle East and Africa and the UK. So that's where his focus is. Yeah. And so it's kind of
what's his role compared to yours? What's his role?
There's a lot of similar things that we do. We introduce Liberland to people who are decision makers in other countries, and we try to establish relations with them. And Tariq has been successful in establishing relations in many countries in Africa, for example, Uganda and Ghana and Malawi and other places, and as well as Saudi Arabia, and of course in UK, Tariq has helped arrange some amazing meetings for us in the UK. So he brings a lot to the table in that regard. My experience and my repertoire lies more in the Western Hemisphere. So when we have events in Latin America, for example, or Caribbean or United States, I have some experience there. So I'm able to work a little bit more there. We recently opened an office in Mexico City in February, and we had a grand opening there, and we had a tremendous reception from people at our opening in Mexico City.
Yeah, I saw some images about it. Actually, I'm gonna post right under. So I'm telling this to my viewers. I'm gonna post a link where you will be able to see a little resume about this opening in Mexico, which seemed. So you originated this, or did this came after long period of pourparlers, of talks, or?
Well, an individual who had met us before on a previous trip to Mexico said, well, hey, I have a house that's been in my family for a while, and it's a nice house in a nice neighborhood in Mexico City, and it looks like it could be a real embassy. And so we put a flag on it, and we organized an event there. And we had a huge team participating in the organization of the event, and all of their efforts and contributions made it a big success.
Nice, super nice. Okay, my next question will be what? So now we came a little bit into that. What is your role, your exact role in Liberland as a foreign affairs minister, and what main tasks were assigned to you?
Well, I do a number of things, usually depending upon my availability. I help the president with certain announcements and communications. I take active part in the cabinet meetings, and I keep track of the agenda and make sure everybody has the agenda for the meetings. I, you know, I try to push everyone to focus on what's most important to us, what our priorities are. Of course, our biggest priority is our neighbors. You know, we've got Croatia and Serbia, who are our immediate neighbors. So our relations with them are the most important. And I'm very happy to say we've had some very interesting breakthrough developments in the last year, which are very positive for Liberland. You see, diplomacy is basically coming to an agreement where there is no agreement before. And we've done some pretty amazing things. I can't release all the details right now, but they're very positive for Liberland. You know, we've had some difficulty with one side of the river, but there's been some events that have taken place that have that are working out positively for Liberland. So I'm very happy to say that. Now, on the other side, Serbia, we have very good relations with Serbia. We've brought thousands of people as tourists. We've brought investors to Serbia who've opened business. We've contributed to the tourism industry, the meetings and hospitality industry, and the maritime industry for sure, with our investment in shipping. And we also have, of course, a free trade zone in Apatin, Serbia, which we plan to develop and bring companies in where they can import and export goods without having to pay VAT tax, and certainly a reduced tax burden than they would have otherwise.
So this free zone in Apatin was like an agreement that you achieved with Serbia?
Yeah, Serbia has about 10 or 12 free trade zones, and some of them are used more than others. Apatin was not so active, but there is a free trade zone there. So we filled out the paperwork and we acquired a piece of property in the free trade zone. And it probably needs a little more renovation, but we want to bring some companies in there so we can import and export goods all over the world.
Nice. Okay. So can we say, without disclosing anything, can we say that the relationship with Liberland is better with Serbia than Croatia, for sure?
Well, most of our activities are based in Croatia. Of course, you know, we have Ark Village, very close to Apatin. We have our ships and boats in Apatin Harbor. We've had a number of meetings. We have an office in Sombor, Serbia, which is in Vojvodina. We've had sit-down meetings with members of the government of Serbia quite often and signed agreements with regional authorities. So due to our location of our operations, we have had to deal with Serbia a lot. And I would say our relations are very good with them.
Good. Yeah, I saw that at the last festival last August. I saw that we were it was a little bit tricky. I did all this YouTube video that I will post the link also under, but I think my viewers already saw it. We had the troubles with the Croatian police when we tried to go on the other side. We remember that. But even the Serbian police was involved at some point, which was a little bit astonishing, if I understood well, because it was the first time.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure that we complied with all the laws regarding boats on the river. You have a maximum capacity of people on a vessel, and they just wanted to make sure that you know, we complied with that. We've never really had any problem or issue with them. They just wanted to make sure that the laws of the waterways are followed, and we have no problem in complying with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I understood when we were there. Okay, so thank you for that answer. How did you implement the network of Liberland representants around the world? How did this start?
Well, usually,
and how does it go?
People come to us and they volunteer and they say, well, I would love to be your representative in this country or that country. So we'll get their resume and have a look and see what they bring to the table. And, you know, in some countries, we have multiple people who step forward and volunteer. So we kind of have to make a decision. Okay, who's going to be our official representative? What is going to be the hierarchy of our mission there? Are we going to have a head of mission, head of office? We're going to have a deputy head of office. We're going to have someone responsible for IT, for security, for, you know, diplomatic relations in the home country there. So it's always sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes it's a little decentralized, sometimes a little too decentralized, because then not everyone knows what the other one is doing. So what we try to do with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is have open communications with everyone. And we invite all of our representatives and citizens and e-residents to come on our weekly calls. We have those on Tuesdays, and those are great fun, and you can learn a lot about what we're doing currently, and you can certainly take part, and we can get to know you a little better. Having a personal relationship with the different representatives is always very, very helpful. Otherwise, if you don't know someone, it's a little harder to interact with them and come together on a plan of action. So the more we get to know one another better, the easier it is to plan things, to do things that have an impact, to plan events, and to participate basically in Liberlands affairs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must add that myself, that's exactly the procedure I went through. So I asked to become represented in Mauritius, which I am now today. Very proud to be there, actually, and to represent.
To have you aboard. We're very proud to have you aboard, Dimitri.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So how do you define representance missions?
Well, like I said, we do vet or have a closer look at the people who want to volunteer for us. We certainly don't want any negative associations with people, or people who, want to use the position as, oh, I'm going to get a diplomatic passport and I can get parking privileges and other kinds of diplomatic advantages that other people don't have. No, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a worldwide support network for Liberland, and the representative missions in each country can be a flagship or a real representative representing Liberland interests. And they can also help organize events and activities with other Liberland supporters in that country. Like, we have a great organization in Turkey. Seljuk Aras in Turkey has done a great job of putting together a representative office there. And some of the other members of the Turkish team are really, really great. They've done a lot of work for us as far as marketing, organization. They really had nice events for the president when he visited Turkey. That's just one example of a very good team that's helping us out. Of course, in Czech Republic, we have a great team. In Serbia, in the United States, we have an awesome team. El Salvador, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of other countries where we have very strong supporters, and we're looking to build that out even more.
Can we say that would you let's say promote? Your main focus, would it be to build contacts with officials in a country? Would that be a main goal, let's say, of a representative?
Definitely.
Or also, yeah, okay.
Like in the United States, for example, we do encourage our supporters to contact their representative in Congress, and sometimes they've heard of Liberland, sometimes they haven't, but it's mostly an educational mission. We want to educate office holders and decision makers about who we are, what our intentions are, the case for Liberland statehood, and the case for recognition. Of course, it's an uphill challenge to think we're going to get full diplomatic recognition from countries, but we definitely have diplomatic relations with other countries. I would place us on a similar level to countries like Taiwan, which don't have full diplomatic recognition across the world, but they have representation. Of course, they're unfortunately bullied. Many countries are bullied into not recognizing Taiwan, Republic of China. Sadly, Honduras recently withdrew their recognition of Taiwan. Of course, they still have relations with them, but
you mean Honduras had recognized and then withdrew it?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
So
is that the only one?
No, there's other ones. I mean, I think a total of 13 UN member countries recognize Taiwan. The number used to be higher, but other countries have been either bullied or offered huge amounts of money or construction contracts or other, development related things to not recognize Taiwan. So we stand with them. We support Taiwan's right to exist as a sovereign country. And an interesting thing, Taiwan has very good relations with Somaliland, whom we, Liberland, have very good relations with. I would say, we've signed a memorandum of understanding with Somaliland, and they were very nice to us. And at least twice, three times, we sent delegations to Somaliland to further our relations there. And they've been very helpful to us. And of course, they are getting recognition slowly but surely from other countries, from UAE, from Taiwan, from a lot of people in the UK are in favor of recognizing Somaliland. A lot of people in the United States are in favor of recognizing Somaliland. So we are using a similar approach. A lot of it's soft diplomacy. We don't have the resources to come in and say, well, you guys need to recognize us. But, we're trying to build goodwill through things like investment, through things like the Liberland Aid Foundation, which is a nonprofit charity organization, which has been active in many, many countries. And I can tell you some of the projects we've done. We've been donated a number of computers to schools in Serbia. We've brought some personal protective equipment to Croatia. We've distributed food and cleaning supplies in Brazil. Haiti, we delivered a couple containers worth of food, where the situation is very unfortunate there in Haiti.
Where?
Dominican,
Haiti.
Haiti.
Yeah.
Haiti. And Dominican Republic, which is right next door to Haiti. We've been very involved there. We've been there a couple of times, and we met with pretty high officials in Dominican Republic as well. El Salvador is another example of one of our successes. We donated about $60,000 to the Children's Hospital in San
Bitcoin.
Yes, it was in Bitcoin. It was worth about 60,000 at the time we donated.
I know.
And the president.
Do you think they sold it for 60,000, or did they keep it?
I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure, but the President Nayib Bukele thanked us personally for our donation, and we got to come to the White House, La Casa Blanca, in San Salvador, and we were very warmly welcomed by members of their Congress and by everybody. It's really an amazing place. I do recommend visiting El Salvador, and a lot of Liberlanders have either lived there or have gone there and want to get a second residency in El Salvador.
I was there last year. In June. Loved it.
Right.
Loved it. Yeah. Actually, this was so. This brings me to the question I wanted to ask is what would you say is in the balance when we speak, and that's a question I ask myself. If I want to now go a little bit further in contacting officials here in Mauritius, what is in the balance? What do you bring as a representative of Liberland? Is it the foundation thing? What would you put in there?
Well, that's one thing. I mean, if it's a small country, it's much easier to deal with small countries because we can bring things to the table. Say with a small country, they feel sometimes their voice is a little bit lesser than the larger countries. Liberland can be a supportive voice for that country, and vice versa. We've made good friends with the Prince of Liechtenstein, which is a very small country sandwich between Switzerland and Austria, and he actually
it's a very important country.
Yes,
it's a rich country.
He actually joked with us, we'll be seated next to one another at all the international organizations, Liberland and Liechtenstein. So because of that, the name, the similarity of the name, but he doesn't like to go to those meetings. But no, I would say we have a good relationship with them, and there's a potential for expanding that. What we bring to the table for other countries, like I said, it's harder to deal with the larger countries like Germany, United States. We can talk to individual people, but talking to decision makers in the larger countries is a little bit more more difficult. Like, for example, we've met quite a few members of Congress in the United States who are very supportive of Liberland and the ideas of Liberland. It's just, do they have enough influence on the Foreign Relations Committee or with the State Department to get the wheels moving to recognize Liberland? I think some things are going to happen this year which will take us very far forward in our quest to establish our presence as a sovereign entity on the world stage.
Nice, nice. I'm just looking forward to it. I guess it's all coming, but yeah, I know a lot is going on. Now, next question. Could you give us an outlook on how Liberland stands regarding its relationship with other countries today? Well, I guess that's what you just did.
Yeah, we talked a little bit already. We have very good relations with Serbia. Our relations with Croatia are improving. Of course, sometimes we have to work through our communication through third parties as sort of an intermediary in our communications with them because they haven't always been direct. So that's been definitely improving in the last few months. So like I said, our neighbors are the most important, but we've had some great successes with other countries, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean. It's great to have friends on the international stage. I would count amongst our friends, certainly El Salvador is a friend of Liberland on the international stage. We're very close to concluding agreements. Some we already have agreements with some other countries in the Caribbean and Latin America. I can't say who, but we're very close with some very, very beneficial agreements with countries we've been working closely with over the last year. So I'm very optimistic about that.
Yeah. Can you tell us, without telling us what countries or whatever, but can you tell us what do you mean by an agreement? An agreement doesn't mean a recognition, right? What can it be?
No, it doesn't necessarily mean full diplomatic recognition. It's a recognition of sorts. You can have diplomatic relations with a country without having a full exchange of ambassadors and presenting the credentials to the head of state and things like that. Like, for example, Taiwan has offices in many countries. They're not diplomatically recognized, but they do have a presence and they do attend official events and things like that. For example, the president of Taiwan was on a world tour, and she went to many countries, including countries where they do not have official diplomatic recognition. But there's countries who support them. They give them moral support, and they have economic ties. And that's one of the things I think we can concentrate on. As to your question, one of the countries we're working with, we are bringing Liberland people to the one country and looking at solid investment plans and free. They also have a system of free trade zones, zona franca, where the taxes are lower. You get breaks on value-added tax. The other things you would have to pay as a regular business are lesser. So there's an economic advantage in investing in certain places. So we're looking at investing in agriculture and manufacturing in one country. And we met with the director of industrial relations of this country, and he was very, very interested in what we could bring to the table. Of course, we have a lot of people, including yourself, who are very advanced in the crypto and blockchain space. So that's another thing that we can bring to the table to countries. We are working, and we are launching that right now, our own system of blockchain governance. And I think we're pretty much a pioneer in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing we can bring to countries. Of course, they want to modernize their election system, their decision-making system, how they provide services to their citizens. So that's one area where we've been very serious about developing our blockchain governance. So that's another area where we can bring forward thinking. We can bring, good examples of how other countries could do that.
Absolutely, how they could evolve to a new way of ruling their democracy, let's say.
And some countries are already doing that. As you know, Estonia has an e-residency program, which is not an actual physical residency program, but it allows you to open a business in Estonia. And we're doing the same thing with the Liberland e-residency program. You can open a Liberland business, and it's operational within the Liberland ecosystem. And that's really interesting and new. And that's
Very.
one thing we're working on developing really hard. And we have a lot of e-residents. We have a couple thousand e-residents now, and you get your e-resident card, and you have the freedom to open a business in the Liberland ecosystem.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. I know we talked a lot about this with Michael, and yeah, it's amazing what we did, and what's being constructed on the blockchain is really amazing. So actually, we're very close of starting the voting system, and yeah, I'm quite amazed by all what is done there. What are your goals for 2023?
Well, we want to build out our representative system even stronger. We want to have open communications, and basically, we want to be able to share our progress with our representatives in a real-time basis, so they can then share it with their groups of Liberland supporters in their countries. We want to get more people participating in our events. With the blockchain governance, people will have an actual stake in the government of Liberland, and that will give people more of an incentive to participate, to choose their representatives, to stake merits, to have a say in referendum, for example, or to have a public veto of laws that might be passed that they don't like. You can also veto that, and that's a great power in the hands of the people to be able to shoot down a law that they don't like. I don't think we'll pass too many laws that people don't like. We're all basically a self-selected community. We all believe in individual freedom. Of course, we might have different tastes or interests, but we all agree that people in general should be free to do as they please, as long as they don't hurt someone else. And so in that sense, we're a self-selected community. And people who favor a very large and active state might not want to be a part of that. Now, people have different opinions on the role of the state. We believe the state should, at a minimum, provide security and justice and diplomacy. And we feel we can pretty much leave it at that. I mean, there's some other functions we can talk about. But we all favor the government to be very limited in its scope of activity.
It's all about, I don't know how you call that in English, but it's all about what we call les principes régaliens in French. I think you have the same term in English, regalian, or how do you?
Oh.
So it's actually the minimal, it's exactly what you said: military, security, justice. That's it, finished. That's what a state should provide.
Diplomacy, of course, and our position with Liberland is voluntary. We don't really get paid for what we do. So, it doesn't cost people it doesn't cost the Liberland taxpayer too much as far as what we do. I mean, sometimes we have to, give support to like for example, our opening of our office in Mexico, or some other events that we have. We keep it very low cost. You compare our budget to the budgets of other governments who basically have an unlimited blank check on the wallets of their taxpayers, and we come out looking very good in comparison with some countries that spend a lot on what they do.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's for sure. Let me ask you a direct question. I think you already answered. I know you cannot maybe answer it, but are we close to an official recognition with another country today?
We are pretty close to an agreement with a country that will recognize our passports, which is tremendous.
Okay.
Now, some countries have already accepted the Liberland passport as a travel document, but we are close to an actual agreement where both sides sign an agreement where we mutually recognize the passports, including Liberland passport. Somaliland already recognized Liberland passport. Probably about 10 or 12 other countries have accepted Liberland passport as a travel document. We don't recommend generally that you do that because you never know if a certain customs official or immigration official will take it. Look, I've never seen this before. I'm going to take it away from you. Now that's happened a few times.
I heard.
Yeah, one of our representatives had his passport taken by Canada. He didn't even try to use it. They searched him and found it on his person and took it away. And we requested it back since it's our property, but we never heard back from them. So you use it at your own risk, but there have been at least a dozen countries that have accepted it. And also El Salvador agreed to accept it as a travel document for our president when he visited El Salvador.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks for all this. It brings me to my last question. And as you know, I have a channel which is very crypto oriented. So I'm going to ask you. We know Liberland has actually Bitcoin as a reserve currency, even though we will use the two other cryptos, Liberland cryptocurrencies, which are the LLM and LLD. My question to you is, as I asked to every person I interviewed of Liberland, is give us your views on the role you think Bitcoin or other crypto will play in the future.
Oh, well, it is the future is the answer to the question. I've been an advocate of using cryptocurrency since 2011. Now, I didn't get any cryptocurrency until 2015, thanks to my friends in Liberland who encouraged me to, Tom, you need to get a wallet. You need to start using crypto. All the libertarians and freedom people use crypto. I said, oh, okay, I'll do it. I thought it was, I love the idea. And I remember a post from myself back in 2011 saying, hey, this Bitcoin thing is a great idea. Why don't more people use it? But I have to admit, I thought, well, it's just something that programmers and nerds use, or gamers, they use it to trade for services or software and stuff like that. It might be a little too complicated for me to get involved. But in 2015, my new Liberland friends started encouraging me to start using Bitcoin. And Vit, our president, sent me my first little bit of Bitcoin in the wallet that I set up. So I have Liberland to thank for my involvement in crypto. And I think it's going to, we've seen it expand dramatically over the past few years. Like Microsoft just bought, about $70 billion worth of Bitcoin, a couple months ago. And all the major financial institutions have staked very large positions in the crypto space. Of course, with smart contracts and other functionality that blockchain in general brings, I still have people today telling me, oh, people into crypto, they're just not serious. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and of course they're serious. And those are just comments made by people who aren't familiar with it. And I would invite anybody who's not familiar to, learn more about it and maybe get involved a little bit. There's certainly areas in the crypto space where I need more education, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it and our very own adventure in the crypto space with our governance token and our own governance blockchain. I'll certainly be part. I'm so proud to be a part of this pioneer effort to revolutionize how government works and how it can actually work for the people instead of against the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, we have this in common. I also saw Bitcoin in 2011. And exactly like you, I thought it was a great idea, but for some reason, I stayed out of it. And then, I was more, at that time, it was after 2008, I was more involved. I thought gold was the thing.
Sure.
If you wanted to get out of the fiat system, you need to go into gold. And I went back into it in 2015, exactly like you. So that's it. That's why we're not billionaires, my friend.
That's right.
So
if only I had made a little extra effort and studied it. And at the time, it was a little harder to acquire Bitcoin. What was the one website, Local Bitcoins, where you could, you'd meet somebody and then exchange Bitcoin that way. You didn't have all these exchanges where you could buy or
Absolutely.
sell or trade them.
And you
Very
could lose them. You could
Yeah,
lose them very easily. You could get them stolen. For so many stories. And actually, if we had them at $1, and when they went to 100, I think I would have sold everything, and I wouldn't have any more. So anyway, thank you for all those questions, for those answers. Tom, was really nice to talk to you. Do you have before we quit? Do you have something you want to add as a conclusion?
well, there's I'm so proud to be a part of Liberland, and we have such a great team. And all the people, I think our people are our greatest resource. Our Liberland people are just so interesting and so intelligent, including yourself, and they're so multi-talented. And I think we bring so much to the table, and we just have a wide variety of interest, and it's all good people, and we're all very usually very positive, and we want to improve people's lives instead of
Yep.
what other governments are doing, making war and having trade wars and real wars against one another. We want to bring people together, and we want to make friends with people and come to agreement where there's no agreement as of yet, but that we hope there will be in the future. And my role in diplomacy is making that happen.
Yeah, great. And I must add to what you're saying is amazing, the network of people I found with Liberland. And one very simple example I'm going to give is that when I traveled, especially last year, I just had to send messages, to our group of representatives. In Salvador, I was met there by Juan Carlos. We had the best time ever.
Oh
I was
yeah,
met
yeah.
in New York by Rav, who is in New York City. I mean, it's amazing. Anywhere you go as a representative, you will find somebody you're going to meet with. He's going to show you around in his country. It's a fantastic network.
Well,
So
it'll be
absolutely.
great to welcome you in Miami next month, Dimitri. We'll have a lot of fun.
That's it. We'll see each other in Miami. Thank you very much, Tom. Have a nice end of the day, and see you soon in Miami.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Merci.